When people looked at us, they saw stability, harmony, love. They saw a picture-perfect couple framed in the warm, glowing light of suburban life. James and Olivia Carter, the textbook American dream. 2 stories, white picket fence, backyard grill, golden retriever named Murphy. You name it, we had it. But every frame has its edges. Corners where shadows collect, places the eye doesn't usually go. And I should have looked closer. Because the truth was bleeding through, not in screams or shouts, but in whispers. Quiet. Hidden. Waiting. We moved into our new home in Boulder Creek, Colorado just 6 months ago. A cozy neighborhood tucked away behind maple-lined streets and weekend barbecues. Olivia picked it. Said it felt alive, like the walls held stories. She always loved that kind of poetic nonsense. Back then, I still thought everything was real. Olivia and I had been together for over a decade. High school sweethearts. She was the girl with the sketchbook under the bleachers, and I was the guy pretending to understand Shakespeare just to sit next to her. We made it through college, internships, her gallery gigs, my marketing job. There were hard years, sure. But we always held on. Or so I thought. The first strange thing happened in the second week after we moved in. I was working late from home, deadlines were piling up, and I noticed Olivia wasn't in bed. It was 1:43 a.m. I remember the time exactly because I checked it twice, confused by the soft thudding coming from the guest room downstairs. She said she was reading. But when I crept down the hallway and peeked through the barely open door, she was sitting perfectly still on the edge of the bed. Lights off. No book. No phone. Just stillness. I didn't say anything. Maybe I should've. But something about the way she was breathing, slowly, deliberately, made my throat dry. I went back upstairs and told myself I imagined it. We all need space sometimes. Right? The days passed, and Olivia smiled like always. She made breakfast. Sent good morning texts with little sun emojis. Called me babe in that sweet way that made everything feel okay again. But then the meetings started. She'd gotten a job offer at a boutique interior design firm, perfect fit for her creative mind. But these meetings were always last minute. Always late. And always with her phone on silent. Once, she came back at 3 a.m. smelled like cologne. Not mine. When I asked, she laughed and kissed me on the cheek. Said her client was eccentric and liked to host planning sessions over wine. She even joked, if I disappear one day, you'll know I ran off with a rich man who owns 5 greyhounds. It was a joke. A bad one. But her eyes, they didn't smile when she said it. By the end of October, I started checking her location. Yeah, I know, it sounds desperate. But when your gut keeps twisting like a storm warning siren, you stop caring about pride. One night, she said she was at a downtown warehouse doing mock setups for a loft space. Her GPS pinged at the edge of Redcliffe Woods, a private cabin retreat area that had nothing to do with design. I drove there. I don't even remember putting on shoes. The place was pitch dark by the time I got there, except for one cabin tucked in between 2 sycamores. Warm lights glowing behind the blinds. A car I didn't recognize parked out front. I didn't go to the door. I just stood in the trees like some kind of ghost, watching. Waiting. She came out 30 minutes later. Her jacket was off. Hair messy. Laughing. Not alone. There was a man behind her. I couldn't see his face, but I could see his hands. One on her waist. One brushing her shoulder like he'd done it 1,000 times before. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just walked backward into the dark until the cabin disappeared behind the leaves. The next morning, Olivia made pancakes. Wore her favorite lavender robe. She even hummed along to Fleetwood Mac as if nothing had happened. You okay? She asked. I stared at her, watching how easily the lie rolled over her features. Yeah, I said. Just tired. But inside, something shifted. I wasn't the same man anymore. The love I had wasn't gone, it was just buried under a growing mountain of suspicion. And under that suspicion, a cold certainty was forming. Whoever he wasn't a stranger. I started digging. I opened her old devices. Scanned her email for hidden folders. Looked at her calendar syncs, even her smart home history. Nothing screamed betrayal. She was careful. Too careful. Except for one thing. There was a name that kept popping up on synced calendar events that weren't on her visible app. A shared reminder marked private. LC, 8 p.m., studio. LC? The only person we both knew with those initials was Landon Cross. My best friend. He was my brother in everything but blood. We'd been friends since freshman year, worked at the same firm, double-dated more times than I could count. Olivia always said he was too smooth, but she smiled every time he walked in the room. And he was single. Always had been. I didn't want to believe it. But now, every smile he gave her, every hand on her back when we said goodbye, it all played back in slow motion. And my hands started to tremble with a rage I didn't know I had. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because sometimes, the worst betrayals aren't caught in explosions, they're unraveled, thread by thread. And I was about to pull the first one loose. Landon Cross. The man who stood beside me as my best man. The guy who helped me move 3 couches and bury my old dog. The only person who knew the worst parts of me and never judged. And now, he was the ghost in the room I didn't invite. That name, those initials LC, were logged in Olivia's calendar more than once. Same label. Same vague studio location. Not enough to prove anything. But enough to burn holes in my chest. I stared at it for hours that night. Not rage. Not yet. Just the slow realization that our life, might have been a stage play, and I'd been the only one in the audience who didn't know it was fiction. The next day, I asked Landon to meet me for drinks. We hadn't hung out one-on-one in weeks. My idea. We met at the usual bar, McCleary's, a small brick dive tucked in the old part of town. Landon showed up late, wearing that smug smile and $1,000 coat. No different than usual, but everything felt off now. His handshake? Too firm. His laugh? Forced. "What's new, brother?" he asked, sliding into the booth. I watched him like a hawk. Every twitch. Every blink. Nothing much. Just, life. I sipped my beer, let the silence stretch. "You been busy?" Landon shrugged. "Yeah. Got a couple new clients. Travel's been nuts." "Travel. Right. You been seeing anyone?" He paused. And for just a second, there was a flicker. A hesitation. Then the smile returned. "Nah. You know me. No time for love." I wanted to scream. No time for love, unless it's mine. The next few days were torture. Olivia was affectionate, sweet, playful even. She kissed my neck when I cooked. She danced in the kitchen barefoot. She left sticky notes in my car that said, "I love your face." Every single gesture felt like acid on my skin. Because now I understood, betrayal doesn't always come from hate. Sometimes, it comes with kisses and I love yous. But I needed more than a gut feeling. So I hired someone. Her name was Ray Bennett, private investigator. Ex-cop. Quiet eyes, no nonsense. I found her through a mutual contact who owed me a favor. We met in a parking lot behind a strip mall like it was some spy movie. "I'll need photos. Text dumps if I can get them. Plates, locations, times. You name it," she said, tapping her notebook. "If something's going on, I'll find it." I gave her everything: names, dates, suspicions. I even told her about the Redcliffe Woods cabin. That one detail made her raise an eyebrow. "Interesting," she muttered. He's the one with access to rentals out there. Didn't he work that real estate deal last year? Yeah. He did. Of course he did. Ray said she'd need 4 days. Longest 4 days of my life. On the third night, I found something. It wasn't a message. It wasn't a photo. It was a receipt. Buried deep in a drawer Olivia usually kept locked, one I picked open with a safety pin after pacing around the house like a madman, was a crumpled restaurant stub from Amara, a rooftop restaurant downtown that books out months in advance. A place she'd always said she wanted to go to with me. It was dated 2 weeks ago. A Tuesday. She said she'd been working late at a design studio. The receipt listed 2 entrees, 2 cocktails, and a dessert. And at the bottom, server, BENJ. Notes, special booth reserved for O. Carter. Welcome back. Welcome back. So it wasn't the first time. I took the receipt and folded it into my wallet like a war trophy. The proof I'd been begging for and dreading. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat down on the couch and stared at the front door for an hour, feeling like a visitor in my own house. When Olivia came home that night, she kissed my forehead and asked what I wanted for dinner. I didn't answer. I just stared at her. She didn't flinch. She was good. Too good. Day 4. Ray texted me, "We need to meet. Urgent." We met at a coffee shop far from town. She slid a thick manila envelope across the table like we were trading state secrets. Inside were photos. Dozens. Some were blurry. Some too close. But enough of them were crystal clear. Olivia and Landon. Holding hands in a bookstore. Laughing at a taco truck. Him brushing her hair behind her ear at a park bench. Her kissing him in the car, parked on a dead-end street with no streetlights. There was even one of them in Redcliffe Woods again. Different cabin this time. Same energy. Ray sat in silence as I flipped through them. I didn't speak. Didn't breathe. Finally, she said, "They've been meeting regularly for months. Looks like a full-blown affair." I nodded. No expression. No emotion. Just silence. Then I asked the one question I wasn't ready to say out loud. Are they in love? Ray looked away. I don't know. But from what I've seen, it's not casual. I drove home with a storm in my chest. I passed the exit to my house 3 times without realizing it. Everything felt warped. Upside down. When I finally pulled into the driveway, Olivia's car wasn't there. She was with him. Again. I unlocked the front door. Walked in. The house smelled like lavender. Her robe was still draped over the banister. Murphy, our dog, wagged his tail at me like the world was still okay. I sat on the couch with the envelope in my lap. And that's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Because I wanted her to tell me. To lie. To look me in the eyes and say nothing was going on while holding the poison behind her back. I wanted to look into the heart of the storm and see if she'd still smile. Only then could I let the fire begin. Olivia came home late that night. I was sitting at the dining table, the one we bought at the farmer's market last summer. She walked in, humming softly, keys jingling like nothing in the world had changed. She saw me, smiled like sunlight, and said, "Hey, babe. You're up late." Up late. Like I was just restless. Not unraveling. I couldn't sleep, I said. My voice was steady. Cold, but not cruel. She walked over, leaned down, kissed me on the cheek. I let her. She smelled like vanilla and spearmint, always her scent after she saw him. It used to be our scent. Now, it was tainted. I stopped by Whole Foods. "Got your favorite oat milk," she said, dropping the bag on the counter. And just like that, the act resumed. Her performance? Flawless. Mine? A ticking bomb wrapped in stillness. The next few days were a blur. She was extra sweet. More attentive. More into me. As if her guilt had grown legs and now wore lace lingerie to keep me distracted. But I wasn't fooled. I was documenting. Every touch. Every word. I was no longer her husband. I was her observer. And still, she didn't slip. Until the day she did. It started with a call. Her phone rang while she was in the shower. She always left it locked. But that morning, she didn't. The name on the screen? L. Christopher. Not Landon. Not LC. Full name. Obvious to someone who wasn't looking. I picked up. Hey, baby, you left your bracelet in the glove compartment. It's still got my scent on it, he said, with a chuckle that made me grip the phone like a weapon. I didn't speak. Silence. Hello? More silence. Then he said, cautiously, Liv? That's when I answered. Calm. Deadpan. No. Not Liv. The pause on his end was long. Longer than I expected. Then he hung up. I set the phone down gently and went to the kitchen, every heartbeat like a drumline in my ears. She left her bracelet. In his car. He didn't even know she hadn't answered the phone herself, that's how comfortable they were. That's when I knew something even darker. They weren't just hiding this. They were making memories. Creating rituals. They had a system. That night, I pretended like nothing happened. She made pasta. Danced to Billie Eilish in her socks. Kissed my jaw when I passed by. I smiled. I laughed. I played the role she wrote for me. Because I had a script now too. And mine ended differently. I called Ray again. Can you go deeper? I asked. She didn't need clarification. I thought you might ask that, she said. I already did. She sent me a link. Encrypted. Password protected. Inside? Audio files. Hours of recordings. She'd planted a mic under Landon's dashboard. What I heard made my chest cave in. Audio clip 1. Landon, you ever feel bad? Olivia, only when I'm sober. Audio clip 2. Olivia, he kissed my shoulder last night and I wanted to scream. Landon, you're still sharing a bed? Olivia, for now. Audio clip 3. Landon, he'd lose it if he knew. You know that, right? Olivia, let him. He's so used to me being perfect. Maybe it's time he sees the cracks. The cracks. I wasn't broken. I was shattered. But there was one clip that burned itself into my brain, the one that felt like a knife, slow and surgical. Audio clip 5. Olivia, he's good. Kind. But I don't feel alive with him. With you, I feel dangerous. Landon, we could leave. Start over. Olivia, I can't. Not yet. He's still useful. Useful. I wasn't a person to her. I was a resource. 12 years of marriage. Vacations, birthdays, shared losses. Plans for kids, for homes, for retirement. Reduced to a utility. I didn't cry. Not once. Instead, I began to write. Letters. Notes. Memories. I compiled evidence, receipts, photos, audio, call logs. I burned them all onto a drive and titled it Act I of the Fool. Because the play wasn't over. But Act 2 would be mine. I started changing passwords. Rerouting joint accounts. Shifting funds into new private savings. Consulting a lawyer I met at the gym, casually asking questions like it was for a friend. I moved carefully. Quietly. like a man sharpening a blade under a smile. And then I planned the dinner. Her birthday was 2 weeks away. I reserved a private room at the rooftop restaurant she adored, Amara, the same one where she cheated with him. I told her it was just us. Romantic. Intimate. But I lied. Because I invited a few extra guests. A handful of our closest friends. And one man in particular. Landon Cross. The trap was set. All I had to do was sit back, act loving, and wait for the curtain to rise. Olivia spent the week before her birthday in a haze of excitement. She thought the dinner I planned was just for us, a celebration of us still being strong, still being real. She had no idea she was walking into a theater of revelation. She picked out a navy blue dress. Backless. Elegant. The same one she wore on our 5th anniversary. I watched her twirl in front of the mirror and say, "Think this still works?" I smiled. "Yeah. You look unforgettable." If only she knew just how true that would be tonight. I arrived early to Amara. Took the elevator to the rooftop suite. Table set for 8. Private chef. Candles. Everything screamed exclusive romance. Except this wasn't a dinner. It was a stage. I handed the maitre d' a sealed envelope. Told him to give it to Olivia only after dessert. Inside? A USB. Labeled, "For the Truth." Guests arrived. First was Megan, Olivia's college best friend. She always thought we were the golden couple. Then came Darren and Lexi, our neighbors, our double-date buddies. Then Ray. My quiet weapon in a silk dress. She knew what this night meant. And finally, Landon Cross. He wore arrogance like cologne. A smooth black button-down, undone at the collar. He didn't know I'd invited him. When he walked in and saw the table, saw me, his smirk faltered for just a second. "Evening," he said, "casual." "Too casual." "Glad you could make it," I replied, motioning to the chair across from mine. He hesitated, then sat. Let the performance begin. Olivia arrived last. The elevator opened, and she stepped out glowing. Hair curled, lips red, that smile she saved for moments she wanted remembered. Then she saw the crowd. Her face flickered, shock, confusion, and then the trained smile of someone who knows how to fake it. "You invited everyone?" she asked. I stood, kissed her cheek, held her hand. "Of course. Tonight's special." She sat beside me. Landon shifted in his chair, eyes darting between us. She noticed him, and for the first time, a crack in her mask. "Landon," she said softly. "I didn't know you'd be here." He chuckled. "Apparently, I'm everyone now." The table laughed. But the energy? Static. Buzzing. Like lightning about to strike. We made it through appetizers. Polite conversation. Forced laughter. Under the surface, the tension was a live wire. I played the loving husband. Hand on her thigh, soft compliments. Landon tried to keep cool. But his eyes betrayed him, shifting, calculating. He knew something was off. But it was too late to run. When dessert arrived, a 3-tiered chocolate mousse cake with gold leaf, I stood. "Can I say something?" I asked the table. Everyone turned to me, smiling, tipsy, clueless. I took Olivia's hand in mine. "I just want to thank you all for being here tonight. For celebrating someone I've loved for over a decade. Someone I thought I knew better than anyone." Her smile was warm, confused. "I've spent the last few months learning something new," I continued. "About trust. About performance. About what people are capable of when they think no one's watching." Landon stiffened. Olivia's smile disappeared completely. I nodded to the maitre d'. He handed her the envelope. She looked down at it. Then up at me. "What's this?" Open it. She pulled out the USB. Labeled in simple black ink. For the truth. What's on here? She asked, her voice small. Everything, I said. Your performances. Your whispers. Your lies. Her fingers trembled. Ray stood quietly, slipping her phone onto the table. On it was a Bluetooth speaker. Already synced. With a single press, she hit play. Audio clip 1 began. Olivia's voice, crystal clear. With him, I feel dangerous. A gasp. He's still useful. A pause. Landon stood up. What is this? He barked. I looked at him calmly. Take a seat. You're in it too. Audio clip 3. Landon, he'd lose it if he knew. Olivia, let him. The table went silent. Megan covered her mouth. Lexi stared, stunned. Darren leaned back like he just watched a train wreck in slow motion. Olivia's face was pale. I can explain, she started. No, I cut in. You've explained enough behind my back. I looked at Landon. You're a guest in my home. You sat at my table. You drank my whiskey. Slept with my wife. And you still had the nerve to smile at me. Landon took a step back. This is insane. I turned to everyone else. See, I wasn't supposed to know. I wasn't supposed to notice. But when people lie long enough, they forget how obvious the truth becomes. Olivia was frozen. No tears. No words. Just exposed. I slid a white envelope across the table toward her. Inside? Divorce papers. Her name already signed. Mine pending. I'll be out by Monday, I said. You can keep the apartment. It's not the home I thought it was anyway. She reached for my arm. Please, just. I pulled away. No more performances, Olivia. The show's over. As I walked out of that restaurant, the city lights didn't feel cold anymore. They felt like clarity. I wasn't broken. I was reborn. The rooftop dinner was over. But the real story was just beginning. They say silence is loudest after an explosion. And in the days that followed, that silence screamed. Day 1. I checked into a hotel downtown. Nothing fancy, just 4 walls and peace. No scent of her perfume on the pillows. No shadows creeping out of old lies. Just me, and the truth. I didn't cry. That was the weird part. I expected rage, maybe grief. But what I felt? Relief. The kind that seeps in after you've been drowning for months and finally break the surface. Day 2. The group chat lit up. Megan, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Darren, you handled that like a king. Lexi, honestly, we thought something was off. She just wasn't there anymore. But the message that hit hardest came from Ray. Ray, you didn't just expose her. You freed yourself. That takes strength most people don't have. That message? It sat in my chest like a warm ember. Because Ray, she knew. Not just the betrayal, but the years before it. The loneliness you can feel even in a full bed. Day 3. Olivia tried calling. 7 times. Voicemails ranged from pleading to furious to pathetic. You humiliated me. I made a mistake. I still love you. You set me up. But the one that stuck? You were never perfect either. She wasn't wrong. I wasn't perfect. But I was faithful. I was loyal. And I would have done anything for her. Except now? Now I'd only do something for me. Day 4. I got a call from Landon. Didn't expect that. His number popped up like a ghost I thought I'd already buried. I answered. Why are you calling me? He paused. I could hear traffic in the background. She's blaming me, he said finally. Says I pressured her. Manipulated her. That she didn't want any of it. I laughed, bitter. You expecting sympathy? No, he said. Just figured, you might want to know what she's telling people. I stayed quiet. He added, for what it's worth. I didn't expect it to go that far. That's the problem with people like you, Landon. You never expect the damage until someone else is bleeding. I hung up. Day 5. Ray showed up at the hotel. No warning. Just knocked on my door at 7 p.m. When I opened it, she stood there with takeout, 2 beers, and that calm look that never wavered. I figured you haven't eaten something that wasn't minibar garbage in days, she said. She walked in like she'd done it 1,000 times. We sat on the floor, backs against the bed, watching reruns and picking at Sesame Chicken. There was a moment halfway through the second beer where she looked at me and asked, "Do you feel lighter yet?" I thought about it. Not lighter. Just clearer. Like the fog's finally gone. She nodded, pulled her knees to her chest. You deserve that clarity. Day 6. The divorce papers came back from Olivia. Signed. She added a note in the margin. I hope one day you'll forgive me. I folded the paper neatly, slid it back into the envelope. There was no hate left in me. Just distance. And a strange kind of peace. Forgiveness? That would come. But it wouldn't be for her. It would be for me. Later that night, Ray called. I'm outside, she said. I looked down from the window. She stood there, in jeans and a hoodie, holding 2 milkshakes. We didn't talk much when I let her in. She just sat beside me on the couch and leaned her head against my shoulder. Sometimes, healing isn't about fireworks. Sometimes it's a quiet drink with someone who stayed when the lights went out. And in that quiet, I realized something. The story of Olivia's betrayal? It wasn't the end of my story. It was just the end of her chapter in it. They say closure comes with time. But sometimes, it comes with a choice. And that's what this final chapter is about. Choice. Direction. Redemption. Week 1 after the fallout. The world didn't stop spinning after Olivia. Bills still came. Work still demanded answers. Friends still invited me to things I didn't have the energy for. But something inside me had shifted. I started running again. Miles through the city before dawn. Not to escape, but to chase something new. And that new thing? It wasn't a woman. It wasn't revenge. It was myself. The man I used to be before I let someone else dim the lights in my soul. The unexpected email. About 10 days later, I got an email. Subject: You deserve the full truth. From Anonymous at protonmail.com. Weird, right? But inside were 3 attachments. A folder full of screenshots. A voice memo recording. A video, grainy, but real. I clicked the video last. It was from a security cam, clearly not meant for public eyes. A hotel hallway. Timestamped, 2 weeks before the rooftop party. And there she was. Olivia. Wearing a long coat. Hair pinned up. Walking hand in hand with a man that wasn't Landon. What the hell? She turned to the man, kissed him like she owned him. The camera caught his face. It wasn't a stranger. It was Dr. Keller. Our marriage counselor. The guy we'd paid hundreds to save us. Bro, she was sleeping with our therapist. It all came crashing in. I sat there, still as stone. The screenshots? Texts between them. Keller telling her how broken I was, how she deserved freedom. The voice memo? Her, laughing, he's so easy to manipulate when he's emotional. Just cry and say therapy and he melts. It didn't just sting. It burned. This wasn't just betrayal. It was psychological warfare. I trusted Keller with my truth. And he sold it out for hotel sheets and late-night secrets. The confrontation I never planned. I drove to Keller's office. I didn't knock. I didn't scream. I just walked in, dropped the flash drive on his desk, and said, "I don't need revenge. I just need you to know, I know." His face went pale. He started to speak. I cut him off. "You broke more than ethics. You broke a man trying to save his marriage. But here's the thing." I leaned closer. "You didn't break me permanently." And I walked out. Olivia reappears. That night, she came to my door. Not with tears. Not with rage. But with an envelope. "I'm moving to Seattle," she said. "New job. New start. I thought you should have this." Inside, a letter. Handwritten. Pages long. She admitted to everything. Landon. Keller. Even another brief affair with some guy she met at a tech convention in Chicago. She said she didn't know why she did it. That she kept chasing feeling something but ended up numb. "You were always constant. And I was addicted to chaos. That wasn't your fault. That was mine." I didn't say much. Just nodded. And as she turned to leave, she looked back. "I hope you find someone who doesn't mistake your loyalty for weakness." 1 month later. I stood on a small dock, watching the sun dip into the lake. Next to me, Ray. Her hand brushed against mine, but she didn't rush it. We'd taken it slow. No labels. No pressure. Just long walks. Honest talks. Shared space. She looked at me and said, "You're different now. But not in a bad way." And I smiled. Because she was right. I wasn't the same man. I was rebuilt. Not bitter, just better. Not broken, just aware. Epilogue, the final truth. Betrayal doesn't define us. How we rise from it does. I learned that love isn't about who you chase when they run. It's about who stands beside you when the storm hits and stays. And sometimes, the best chapters come after the worst endings.